now that we have our enemy moving towards the ball and it can very easily push the ball off the edge, the next part before we add player movement is to make it so that the ball can actually respawn real quick. In our scripts folder, go ahead and right click and create a new C# script, and I'm going to call this ball. Let it compile real quick. On the ball, add the ball script you just made. There it is, and double click to open it up. Okay, so in order for us to check for out of bounds, there's like a few things we probably want. So let's say like an update, we're always going to be checking for out of bounds, right? So that will be a method that we're calling forever, right? So check for out of bounds. And in this method, if our Y position is less than, I don't know, if it falls below like -20, so if it really falls off the edge, the component that's making our ball move and have gravity is its rigid body. So when we respawn the ball, if it's falling really, really fast, we want to make sure to reset that velocity so that it doesn't, when we respawn it, either fall through the floor or keep falling. We want to set its velocity back to 0 so that it respawns and then takes a moment to fall, right? So we want to set the rigid body's velocity to 0, and then we want to set its position back to the beginning. Cool. So in order to do this, there's a couple things we need. We need the rigid body, and we need to know what the beginning is. These are two things we don't know. So up here, we need a handle to the rigid body. We need a vector 3 starting position, so we know where the beginning is. And I think that's it. I think that's all we need. Oh, and then in start, we need to assign the rigid body to the component on the ball. Okay, think that's all we need for this. So if you want to, as a mini challenge, you could make it so that the ball respawns when it falls off the edge. This should be just about all you need in terms of pseudocode. And if you don't want to do that as a mini challenge, no worries, I will show you right now. Whew! Okay, so first things first, let's get a handle to that rigid body component. So on the ball, that's this component right here, this rigid body that we're trying to access. On our ball, all we're going to say is private rigid body, and then we have to give it a name. I'm going to call it _RB. That's it. Now in start, let's actually assign that. So _RB equals get component, and we're looking for the rigid body. Bam. Always good practice to null check. So I'm going to check if RB equals null, and if it does, we'll just throw an error. Okay, now that we have our rigid body assigned, let's go ahead and set our starting position. So that would be a private vector 3 starting position. And we can add an attribute to this. We can serialize the field so that when we hit save on the script and hop back into Unity, the ball, the script now has a starting position that's taking in an X, Y, and a Z. So where our ball is right now is above the enemy player. So you can decide where you want the starting position of your ball to be. For me, I guess I'm going to set it above the enemy for now. We could set it in the middle above the net. How you figure out where that is all the way up here. Its position. So its position on the X is 0, its Y is 8, and then its Z is what I'm messing with. So I think if I put it all the way at 0, 8, 0, it's going to be directly above the enemy. So I'll scroll down here and I'll put 0, 8, 0. Okay, now that we have our starting position chosen, we can go back into the ball script and we can build out this part, checking for out of bounds. So let's just make a method called void check for out of bounds. And in update, we can now call that method check for out of bounds. Cool. Okay, so we're filling in this pseudocode. If our Y position is less than -20, this is a simple one. So we're just going to say if our transform.position.y is less than -20. So we're going to take our rigid body's velocity and set that equal to 0. There's a shortcut for that. We could say the long way to do it, don't copy this. The long way to do it is a new vector 3, and then you type in 0, 0, 0, right? The shorthand for this new vector 3, 0, 0, 0 is just vector 3.0. Sweet. So that's telling our ball, hey, stop falling for just a second. And then we're going to set its transform position back to the starting position. So starting, what did I call that? Oh, I didn't put an underscore. I'm going to right click and rename it real quick and give the underscore because that should be a private variable. So there we go. Transform.position equals starting position. There we go. Okay, let's hit save on the script, hop back into Unity. Let's hit play. Okay, and I'm going to push it to the side. There it goes. It's falling. Good. It respawned. It's not perfect yet. I would love for it to be able to start in the air. Oh, my starting position is 0, 0, 0 for some reason. I thought I put 8. Okay, so let's hit play. Okay, there the ball is falling. I'm gonna push it to the side and see what happens. They're pushing it off the edge. It's falling. Yay! And it respawns. Perfect. This is exactly what we want to see. Since right now the enemies are the only ones that can actually interact with the ball, we can't really move at all. Let's take the time to create a 3D controller for our player. So in the next part, we'll be doing that.